Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G, and I'm here every Monday night on WEMS radio from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., bringing you spiritual conversations. My guests, they come from all walks of life, and they have a lot of different perspectives on life. We talk about love, we talk about life, and we talk about spirituality. I like to talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does it work in your everyday life, moment by moment? And I always talk about the spiritual toolkit. What spiritual practices support you in your everyday life? I'm excited to come each week and share with you and to let you know that one of my goals is to support you in living your best life in joy with grace and ease. And you can find me here every Monday night, as well as on Facebook every day as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. I'm excited tonight because I have a very, very special guest, and I'm sure she is going to help us give you some great information and support you in living your life. My guest tonight is Akila Moore. Akila is in public relations. She's also a wine cause entrepreneur. And I'm sure Akila has done many things. I give the title, but it's great when my guests can come in and share with you who they are and hope that you get something from their experiences that can support you. So come on in, Akila, and let's have this conversation.
Hi.
Hi. So, Akila, introduce yourself. I always give the titles, and I was like, oh, so this is their title, but then you get to let people know who you are.
Awesome. So yes, my name is Akila Moore. I'm originally from Teaneck, New Jersey. Currently reside in Brooklyn, New York. I have, let's say, I have a vast background in fashion and marketing, and mostly in entertainment. And so that's how I've gotten into PR. And I started around like 2009 in fashion PR, and throughout the years, I've worked in fashion wholesale sales, public relations, and in all different categories of the business. So with shoes, handbags, jewelry, you name it. And so then I want to say literally right before the pandemic happened, a really good friend of mine, he has his own PR agency and asked me to come on board to help him with some of his clients. So I've been working with him for the past almost 2 years, and also have within that time period taken on some of my own clients. So I've been super busy working just to help. So if anybody doesn't know, public relations is really about promotion, and not so much that you can delve into the marketing side because that's where the lines get a little blurred, but it's really about the promotion and getting my clients press and opportunities on red carpets, opportunities to speak with the media, and opportunities for their names to become household brands, and also kind of jump into that social media side too if they don't have a background there. So I'm pretty much their mouthpiece. Of course, if there's any issues where a lot of writing needs to be done in terms of speeches and things like that, or just content in general, I'm the one who comes up with the wording for it. So that's really what a publicist does, is I'm the mouthpiece for my clients. And I love working with helping these young entrepreneurs really build their brands, and literally just come onto the scene, if it's in music or just in the creative space. So with that being said, I know you had said that I'm also a wine cause entrepreneur. So I started doing that with a company called One Hope Wine in March of 2020. So I've always been a huge avid wine drinker. My favorite varietal of wine to drink is Merlot. I love like super dry wines.
Mm.
I know a lot of people out there love super white, but I'm a
White, super
white.
sweet, right?
Yeah, super white, super sweet. I'm like red wine all night long. So I started with One Hope just because the company is one that's unmatched. Every single bottle that is sold has a built-in nonprofit that it supports. So when you click on the link and you purchase a bottle, it helps various nonprofits all over the country. And it's in various different categories, from autism to building, helping to um, helping to build schools. We have a school that we built in Guatemala, working with ending childhood hunger. Of course, in a couple days, the one the one nonprofit that everyone will always be, or cause I should say, fundraising for is breast cancer, right? And so you know, I've known a lot of women who are breast cancer survivors and things of that nature. So October is a huge month for us in terms of us being able to have these wine fundraisers and for these nonprofits, no matter if it's Susan G. Komen or even a smaller nonprofit that supports a cause like that. So I work with a team of almost 165 people.
Wow. Okay.
And I have been building this, like I said, for the last year and a half. So it's been an awesome time over. I mean, I know the pandemic has been tough, but it's pretty good to me.
But
I'm
so
so blessed.
yeah, when I was looking at one wine, this whole thing around the wine, what kind of organization? So you say you have a team of 165 people. How does it work? What's the structure of it? Because I like the idea of, that each bottle supports. I looked a little bit at the beginning of how they got started. But
Okay.
how is it structured, and how did you get involved? You just thought you liked wine, and so this opportunity came up?
So honestly, to tell you the truth, I mean, it's bigger than just wine. Wine is the product that the customer receives,
Okay.
but the give back is what we really sell.
Okay. Okay.
So I can work with companies to do corporate gifting in terms of how they want to gift employees. Let's say an employee's been with the company for 10 years, and instead of getting a watch, maybe you get wine. And the good thing about it is 10% of the proceeds will go towards a nonprofit of their choice, right? So from a gifting aspect, wine is very at the top of a list for people to want to purchase. Then I partner with nonprofits as well, because as you know, during the pandemic, there was a lot of galas that weren't being held. There were a lot of those in-person fundraisers that the nonprofits weren't having, so they weren't receiving the same funding that they normally would have on without the pandemic, right? So
Right.
what I do as a cause entrepreneur is literally have wine experiences where this money gets designated towards specific causes. One thing that I love to do as a Black woman, as a Black professional, is partner with Black nonprofits, because I want to see the money go back into the communities of people that look exactly like me. So that's really important. It's a part of my mission. So as One Hope Wine Cause Entrepreneur, I'm basically an independent contractor. And as it works is, you want to build with more people who want to make a greater impact as well. Because like I said, the wine is the product that the customer receives, but we really sell the give back. So as a cause entrepreneur, I'm selling the wine through working with nonprofits, through having wine parties, having a good time, and giving back at the same time. And while I'm doing that, I invite others to do the same thing with me and join me in a movement with giving back to various nonprofits throughout the country. So as I've been doing that over the last 18 months, I've grown a team that I've worked with that I'm literally their mentor. I help them get trained and help and get started with their own business. So at the end of the day, you are an independent contractor. It is your own business, and One Hope provides you with the product.
Right, because that's what I was thinking. Like, it's like, so you're saying you train entrepreneurs, and
Correct.
we're always looking for opportunities, right, to be entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
So as wine is the product and the main thing is to give back, what other support is provided through, say, by choosing this company, One Hope? So
Versus
do they give trainings? Yes, what I'm trying to understand. Because if people really want to do this, I would just want them to be clear, because I think it's an excellent idea and I love it. I want them to be clear about what it looks like and how to get involved in it.
awesome. So it's very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do have 9 to 5. Some people don't. If you're a stay-at-home mom, it could be a great opportunity for you to bring in great side gig and great money for yourself and for your family. And the one thing that I will say that I love about One Hope is that we are a community that is really built on some fearless women of all backgrounds, and we
Mm-hmm.
do have men who work the business as well. And of course, what I always say to people is we want to make sure that we're making an impact with these nonprofits and charities across the country, but we also want to make an impact in our own household, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want to set your own goals, and you want to make sure that you're making an impact in your household with your family. Let's say you want to make an extra $500 a month. I can show you how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the great things and the perks about our business model is there's no overhead, so you don't have to keep wine in your home. All of our
Mm-hmm.
wine is handcrafted by a woman winemaker out of Napa Valley, and the wine gets delivered to your front door. So it's not like you have to take orders and then it comes to your house and then you have to drop it off. It doesn't work like that. All of the wine gets delivered to your customer's front door. You get your own website with your name attached to it, or even your business. So let's say for me, my company for on my PR side is called Be More Stylish in Media. And so if I wanted to link my company with my wine business, I'm more than welcome to do that. And so, like I said, there's no overhead. The perks are great. The commission is great. Um, and then there's no quotas. There's no sales quotas that you have to meet. There's no sales pushiness. We are
Okay.
really built. We really are a community where there's no competition. Everyone is here to really help one another, because at the end of the day, like I said, we're selling the give back. And so that's pretty much it. Like to break it all the way down, you
Mm-hmm.
get started. Of course, every business that anyone wants to start, there's always a startup cost.
Right.
So you can get started as little as $39 a month. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, $39 for your initial fee, and then
Mm-hmm.
just $12 a month to get your website started,
Okay.
or even just as little as $8 a month if you decide that you want to pay up front for the entire year. I like tracking my expenses monthly, so I
Mm-hmm.
like to do the $12 a month, but I totally get why somebody would say, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just pay $99 up front and have the maintenance of my website already done.
So
And
you
when
say you've done it for a year and a half.
yes,
So what's been your success rate? You know, we always want to say, so what happened over the year, right? What
so
has been your success rate?
so within the past year and a half, as you grow your team and as you make more sales, I was able to promote to a director in my company.
Mm-hmm.
So there are levels where the more you grow your team, the greater team of impact. You're giving back more money to these nonprofits, right? And so you get highlighted for the impact that you are creating. And so, with that being said, there's levels that you can promote throughout the system where you have to work. Like you can't sit back and you're teaching others to become mentors and leaders as well. You have to really work your business in order for you to receive the income. So that's
So
one thing.
let me ask you one question right before you go on. I love it and all that. I was in Mary Kay, right, as a
Okay.
Mary Kay representative. Is that the same idea of building the team from that
So
perspective? And maybe not in the dollar sense. You know how
mhm,
they do those structures where you get money if I get money and all that.
correct.
How does what gets you to be director? Say 10 people on your team, or kind of the structure of that.
So it doesn't matter how many people are on your team. It's more so about how much you are bringing in as
As
a
a team.
as a
Okay.
team.
Got it. Okay. All right. Okay. I understand.
So as
So,
a director, I can have like a minimum of 4 people on my team. But if we're working collectively together to get to a designated amount for us to make an impact for the nonprofits, that's how you can get to director and to leadership.
got it. Got it. Okay, great. That's really interesting. And I like that it's wine because I was in a wine club and I have a wine refrigerator, right?
Oh, awesome.
But when I started to cut back on my expenses, I was like, oh, kind of let the wine club go for now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but it was nice and it's interesting that you can buy the wine, sell the wine, and support. Have you seen? And so you've only been in it. You were in it post COVID, right? Not before COVID, because have you?
I started literally like a week after the shutdown in New York.
All right, so you couldn't see right what the difference was prior to.
So my mentor is actually one of the first founding CEs. She started with the business 5 years ago. So the direct selling part of the business didn't start until about 6 years ago. And she's actually the only, so like I said, there's promotion levels. The highest level that you can get to is a national executive director, and she's the only one in the company. So that's another thing that's great about the business, is that we're still very much on the ground floor. So we're not even touching yet like the Mary Kay and the Avons of the world yet. We only have about maybe 12,000 people who are actually in the business. So with that being said, I have an awesome mentor who has shared every high and every low throughout the changes. And of course, when change comes, some people decide it's not for them anymore, right?
Right,
And that's the thing I really, really, truly love, is that, again, there's no pushiness, there's no competition, and there's no one telling you what to do, and no one's your boss. I'm literally your best friend who's helping you sell wine so we can give back and make money for ourselves at the same time. So I will say what has happened in 2020 for her as a national executive director, that was the first time she had ever hit that title. And on top of that, we went from 1,000 team members to about 7,000 team members in just a year and some change.
Okay, the impact of everybody looking for something.
Correct.
Yes. Wow.
And everyone loves the idea of like, oh my God, it's wine and it gives back, and just makes sense. If you're a wine lover and you're a do-gooder at heart, like I love community service, and that's genuinely a part of. I'm a service-oriented individual. Right. So when I saw the ad, I think I saw it on like either Instagram or Facebook. It was on social media. I clicked on it immediately and I said, sign me up.
Right. Well, that's really good, and that's really interesting. So let's shift a bit, and I know that you are started in fashion, the seasoned fashion expert, right? But great in fashion. Now, talk about your transition from the fashion world industry now into doing PR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll say I came out of Temple University around in like the spring of 2008. And I had started working for Liz Claiborne on their wholesale team back then when they were still around, right?
Right.
And then, of course, like there was that economic downturn in 2009, and a lot of people were getting laid off and things like that. So that was my first, like I was making money. I bought my first car. I did all those things. And then boom, my job was taken from me like a year and a half later. So from that time until now, I just kind of dibbled and dabbled in different areas in the fashion industry, because at the core, like I said, I'm a service-oriented individual, but I've always loved fashion and pop culture. So when I started in the fashion industry, I got pulled into like the sales part because I do have a finance degree, so I could talk business all day, right? But I knew I didn't want to crunch numbers, and I didn't want to be on Wall Street and wear a suit every single day. I wanted to be fashionable and play with my hair and play with my makeup and play with my look every day, right? So I've worked for various large companies like Rebecca Minkoff and others. A Showroom 7 that's had like Jeremy Scott and Moschino and different brands that I've been able to partner with and meet so many different people and designers. So the transition really wasn't that hard because wholesale sales and PR at kind of at the end of the day do the same things. We're reaching out on behalf of the brand, but on one hand with PR, I'm reaching out to editors and bloggers and things like that to promote the brand versus when I'm reaching out to call a retailer to get that brand sold in their stores. So the mechanics behind it is still the reach out being a voice box, right? But I'm just getting placements in two separate different places. So the transition from fashion PR over to like working with creatives and music, the only difference is sometimes I feel like a therapist. And then the lines can get blurred a little bit because publicists then can kind of be like a brand strategist, or then kind of turn into a manager, or then kind of turn into a talent agent.
Right. Because you have to know everything and be with the person, every aspect of what's going on.
So I literally just came back from LA for like the last week, and I was with one of my clients. She's a yoga veteran. And so now we're trying to turn her into like she's a brand ambassador for Lululemon right now. And we want to turn her into like a Yoda media mogul. And so we're on our way. Being in LA was awesome. We made some great connections. She said it was warm yoga, but for me it was hot as hell in there. So we did I did yoga, and the first time I ever did yoga was when I was like 21. I took it as an elective in college. But just feeding off of her energy and being her mouthpiece and meeting people was just so much fun. And I learned a lot, and I'm just excited to see what the future has to hold. And she's an awesome client. And outside of her, I work with other musicians, from rappers to singers, you name it. So yeah, it wasn't too much of a hard transition. It's just meeting people.
So when I think about PR and how it was done prior to social media, right? Can you talk about what the impact of social media now? Because I think about when I was in the music business way back, it was a whole other world, right?
Yeah.
And the way it's done now is a whole nother thing, right? So in the world of public relations, what have been some of the shifts and some of the things that you've seen?
That's a really good question. I can't wait to answer it. So one thing that I've learned is getting onto social media for the client is very, very, very important. And on top of that, public relations and social media are two separate entities. So when you have the funds and you have the budget, you want someone to work solely on your social media and someone to work solely on your public relations, because social media is a job, especially when there's so many different platforms for a client to be on, from Snapchat to Instagram to Facebook. It is time consuming, and if you have someone to control it for you and control your narrative, that's important. So because I'm in like this weird space, like I'm only 36, but I still know what the music industry and fashion was like before social media, because I didn't get onto Instagram until 2012, and I had already been out of school for about 5 years. So, and then also growing up in the 90s and being a child of the 90s and born in the 80s, like I remember how it moved back. You know what I'm saying? I remember being one of the first people to get on that first part of the generation to get on Windows. You know what I mean? And even today, I had a conversation with a woman who works for Vita Shoes International, a shoe company. And she was telling me that she's been there for 22 years. And I asked her, how has she seen the industry change? And she said, well, back then, we didn't even have email. We had fax, right? And I remember like being an intern in college in 2003, 2004, literally faxing and copying. Nobody faxes and copies anymore really in the office. You can do everything from your phone, right? There's apps for everything. So what I will say in terms of, especially for musicians, is everyone's always running for that like viral sensation, and it happens for a lot of people from YouTube and the TikTok now, and Instagram. So it's kind of really, for those type of clients, is finding your niche and finding your voice is very important, but you have to be able to be ready to always feed people content, right? Until you get someone to do it for you, right? So PR and social media are always going to be separate, but they're always going to intertwine, just because of, again, if I'm going to help you be the face of a brand, then I'm going to tell you what to say when you're writing something on Instagram or on Facebook, and then I may say you need to pull that down, or if you make a mistake and you need to issue a statement. Instagram or social media is the first place now where they're issuing statements versus having a press conference, right?
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, press conferences was the tool to get a message out there if there is an issue that was arise. It's called crisis communications, right?
Right.
But if you want to get to the people faster, or if you want to wait before telling people like how you're going to respond to controversy, the fastest way to do that is to hop on your Instagram or hop on Twitter, and just write 140 characters and be done with it.
Right. Very different. Very different.
Yeah. I mean, I like both. I hate social media. I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
I can understand, right? Because so do I, because it's not of my generation, right? So anything, and I'm embracing it and I'm working with it, and I know that I need to get a person to do it for me. So I do what I do, and man, I know that I need to get that support, right?
Right.
And when we talk about just being in people's lives, like what you do, telling them how to write. I mean, how many clients can you really manage, right?
There you go. That's another thing. It's like, okay, so when you are a publicist and you work for yourself, you have to either figure out, when it comes to budgeting, right, if you're going to have a monthly retainer, or if you're going to take a percentage on the back end, and then that's where you're talking more like brand sponsorships and things like that. So yeah, I mean, let's say your retainer is $1,000 a client. Like, how many clients do you really think that you can feasibly work on in a month's time? And for me, I found that my sweet spot where I'm going to say no, I can't take on anymore, is 4.
Okay.
Like 4 consistently at one time without having like an intern or help right now. That's where I'm at. But I can increase it once I start to grow a team, right? So going back to like with how One Hope is, me as an entrepreneur, I understand that if I'm growing my team, I can make a bigger impact because I can get more work done.
Okay. Right. With the team out there doing it and still having the impact.
Correct. Right? So like, let's say I can't be at this particular listening party with this client, and I may need to fly to Miami, or I may need to fly to LA, right? But I groomed someone to be able to work with this client without me physically being there. Because at the end of the day, that's what entrepreneurs want to do. Like, they don't physically want to be everywhere all the time, right? Exactly. You need help.
You want money working for you. I always think about you want that residual income.
Correct.
You don't want to work dollar per hour, right? You want to be able to create it in that sense. So that's why I've always looked at opportunities to create residual income where you're not always having to go to work to make the money, right? So it's an interesting opportunity. Let's kind of shift and talk about spirituality, right? Generally I ask all of my guests to talk about how they grew up, religion, whatever, then what changes happened throughout their lives, and then where they are now with their spirituality. So give us your little spiritual journey. I call it the spiritual journey, right? I was like your little. I don't mean diminishing when I say your little story, right?
No, I got you.
I just mean
So honestly, so I'm half Jamaican and half Barbadian. So
Oh, okay.
my mom is born and raised from Barbados. My dad
Mhm.
was born and raised from Jamaica.
Okay.
And uh, when I was growing up, my whole family on my mom's side, well, not whole family, but majority of them,
Mhm.
were 7-day Adventists.
Oh.
Let me back up. When my mother was growing up in Barbados, she was a
Mhm.
Jehovah Witness
Jehovah
first.
Witness. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
she was a Jehovah Witness first,
Mhm.
and so my uncle and his family, who's my mother's brother, is a Jehovah Witness, and my great aunt, who's like the matriarch of the family, she's like 92, 93
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
She was heavily in 7-day Adventist. So when I was growing up, all the way from I guess 1 to age 13,
Mhm.
I was 7-day Adventist.
Okay.
Went to church on Saturdays. Um, was a pathfinder. I don't even remember what that meant,
But
but I had to.
right, and I clearly don't know because I'm about
Yeah.
to ask you. Please explain a
So,
7-day Adventist, right? Because
so
all I
yeah,
get that is Saturday church, right?
yeah. So,
So
so,
that's like the base of it
yeah.
all, right?
So 7-day Adventists pretty much practice kind of the same beliefs as Jewish people.
Okay.
So they believe that Jesus rose on the seventh day, which the seventh day was Saturday and not Sunday.
Okay.
That's
So
so
they like so that's when okay, got it. Okay,
got
so
it.
they shift, right? Right.
So and how their Bible is kind of situated is different than like
The Christian Bible.
yes, yes. So
So
they do believe in Christianity very
they
much.
they don't or they do.
They do. They
Okay,
do.
good.
They do
And
believe.
so with the Bible, how's it structured? Because the Old Testament is um, what they use in the Jewish Quran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe I'm saying it wrong, right? But the Old Testament. So tell me about the Seventh Day Adventist Bible. How's it different? And I know even Jehovah Witness, their Bible is different also.
So I think it's still set up the same way. It's just I think the wording is just different. But to be honest with you, I'm like how many years removed now? 24 years removed.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
so when I was 13, my mom, I think I was going to where was I going? I was really always involved in like so many different activities and very academic and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was going to NJIT for like a young people's class in like sciences or something like that. Anyway, my
Mm-hmm.
mom was dropping me off and she met this woman
Mm-hmm.
and she talked to her about Buddhism.
Mm.
And from that moment, my mother has been a Buddhist ever since. So,
Wow,
yeah,
shift, right?
right.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, if you brought my mother on here, she'd
Mm-hmm.
have even more to tell you because she went from Jehovah Witness to 7-day Adventist
Yeah, tell
to
her to come on the show. Hook me up,
she
right?
actually
Because
has,
that would be an interesting conversation because for me, I'm Christian. I was born and raised Christian, and then I moved into like now I moved into science of the mind, unity with the Christian base, but I accept all the religions. So I am an interfaith minister where I study all of them and I understand all of them, right? And so I work with being spiritual, different practices. Like
yeah,
chanting is a great practice, meditation, things like that. And they come from different, you can say it's spiritual practices as opposed to being associated with one religion.
correct,
You
correct.
know, or yeah. And so I like the idea of understanding each and being able to choose. So it will be an interesting conversation to talk about the transition from 7-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witness to now Buddhism. It would be interesting.
Yeah,
Because I still find myself, I grew up Christian. I still consider myself Christian, and I find myself saying Christian things, right? Oh, no, oh no, there are a lot of questions about some of it too.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always hoped, and a part of why I like this, creating a space where we can realistically talk about religion and spirituality and how it works for us, because for me, we were just quiet about it, right? Just
Yeah.
go with it and you do it. So being able to address it from the perspective of how to support, like I said, how does it support you in your everyday life, right? And so for you, what's your current practices? Do you do Buddhism, or where are you in your spiritual?
So I think I'm kind of like you. I would consider myself Christian, but I'm not. I don't have like one religion that I say that I'm like, or I kind of say that I'm universe.
Yeah, me too. Right, I get it totally.
Right.
Right.
I believe in God, but I believe that there's like universal God that's like within us,
Yes.
and that um all if the faith that I have in myself and that universal God is going to get me through those tough times, and leaning on family and faith is really strong for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I do go to church on Sundays, but I go to a specific one in Englewood because I truly really love how this pastor preaches.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he talks to all generations in a really collective way that doesn't feel very, you have to be Baptist, so you have to,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a Baptist church,
Mm-hmm.
but how he delivers his message feels very universal.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like you can understand it, because I find sometimes when we get caught up in the what the Bible says or how you're supposed to be, are we really responding in that way? Do we really understand what it means? And how true are we being to ourselves? Because I find, when I think about it, for me, it's really personal. Each one of us, we all have our own way of connecting to the universal God, or spirituality. And so it does become oppressive if we have to say the Christian way is the way, or this way is the way, or that way is the way, as opposed to being open and having each person choose what works best for them.
Right.
So that's why I'm about all the religions and all the practices, right? And, supporting people in understanding the Bible, though. I really know that the Bible is a wisdom text, and there is some great wisdom in there that we can
Agree.
come away with, right? That can
Agree.
support us. And so I get, there's a minister that I love, because when he talks about the Bible, he really breaks it down where you understand how to use it in your life today. What does it mean for you today?
Mm-hmm.
And listening to
Yep.
him, I was like, I would go to any Bible class that he had, right? Because he really breaks it down.
Right.
And I totally, for me, I know, and that having that spiritual base and working from some kind of spiritual base is really supporting me in, having the things I want, doing the things that I want to do. So talk about, what are some of your spiritual practices?
So I do try my best when I wake up in the morning to meditate, and I I want to say my spiritual practices include, exercise,
Mhm.
include meditation, because that's the time where it's just me and being focused and disciplined, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's what has a lot to do with spirituality is focus and discipline, listening to yourself, listening to your body, and taking care of mind, body, and soul. I think that all comes into this place of peace. I
Mhm.
think that's where we go. People go to church, or they have a certain religion because they want to find some solace and some
Yeah.
peace, or
Mm.
and to to get through the days, to get through pain. whatever it is that whatever type of healing that they're looking for. That could be financial healing, that
Mhm.
could be body, you know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
just a mental space. I think
Mhm.
now that we're having more conversations about mental health and things like that, there's a lot of different avenues where that just understanding universal God and being one with yourself is important. And so I think meditation is definitely my number one tool that I
Mhm.
try my best. If I don't get to it in the morning, I
Mhm.
do it right before I go to bed.
Mhm. Mhm. That's cool. That, yeah, it is. And when you talked about exercise, that is also a spiritual practice. And I
Mhm.
like what you're saying about, because the idea of a spiritual practice is, when do you go within? When do you have that time? Because I always, when I think about, think about praying, you think about praying from different perspectives, right?
Mhm.
So, and my thing is, okay, so we're praying, but at what point do we hear what God is saying to us? At what point do we really hear and know what moves to make, right? And I find meditation is that space where I can know what moves to make. It's the space where I can go within and then figure out, well, what is my next step? What could be my next move? I've been on this. What do you think about praying? Recently,
I
right?
think praying is very essential. And again, that's that conversation where you're sitting and having a moment to
Mm-hmm.
just get into your thoughts and asking the universe for not just the physical things that you want, but just having a sound mind and body, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
again, just to get you through the day, get you to your next goals. For me, it's bigger than the physical things. I
Mm-hmm.
really aspire to just really be at peace, and
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to get to that peace,
Mm-hmm.
the things that are going on in the physical sense, because no matter what happened 5 minutes ago or yesterday or the day before that, I can't change that. I can't predict the future either. But if in that moment I take 5 minutes to just be grateful and be thankful, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important part of taking a moment to pray.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
that's really cool, because as I was thinking about praying, you think a lot of times it's like asking for something. Please help me do this. Or, it's a prayer of asking. And what you just talked about, we were talking about more affirmative praying, a
mhm,
praying of gratitude.
gratitude, yeah,
So, yeah. So when things happen, it's sometimes you're first like, oh, help, oh God, but then I was reminded that a great place to be would be, I am so grateful for what we're looking for. And it totally shifts the energy in
yeah,
your prayer when you find, like, and praying every day, what does that look like? And it doesn't necessarily look like getting on your knees, falling on you, but for some people it does look like that, but for others it can look many different ways. A practice of gratitude can be a prayer, and different things like that. So I've been working with, I think every week I talk about, well, what is praying, like, and what does it look like? But it can look many ways, and it's just not just one way.
yeah,
um, so that's, I brought it up because I know that prayer is something that we all say we do and we all embrace it. And so I was just curious about what prayer looked like for everybody else,
mhm,
many different ways. Because I know when we go to church, it looks a whole different way.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so also I was looking at some of the other things that you've been involved in, right? I know it's the wine and the fashion and the public relations. So at this point, what are your next goals for your business, right?
Mhm.
And what support do you need, and how do you see yourself moving forward with them?
So I will say this for the support question. is really leaning into the leaders that have been in One Hope longer than I have, like really learning how to, I wouldn't say mirror their business, but mirror their habits, right? So one mentor, I know I had a conversation with her. She told me she doesn't really watch TV anymore. So I'm trying to like listen to TV, and really self-development books are the best thing that has helped me during the pandemic and while building businesses, and also realizing in that, going back to like the meditation, reminding myself to be grateful and thankful for where I'm at. Because sometimes I can fall into a space where I hate to say it, but like I'm comparing myself. It's like my journey is to someone who started at the same time, like they may be further ahead of me, but I also have other things going on that they don't have going on. And so eliminating the negative space, like my fiance is always talking to me about that. And so I think for me, like goal wise, we're getting married next year. And so
congratulations. Right.
That's one thing I'm looking forward to goal wise is have like we started going back to what we were talking about with therapy. I mean, with meditation, we started therapy together back in like March. So the last 6 months has been amazing in terms of on the same page.
Wow, that's so cool, because I love to talk about therapy, because I want to get all brown and black people in therapy, right?
I am all for it. I believe
I
in
would just so love for people to talk about therapy and make it okay, make it like. And so talk about it. Tell us. So you started therapy, and now you see the difference in your relationship. Talk about what are some of the things that you've seen shift there, because I'm a pusher of this therapy, right?
So I mean, me and my fiance have a long history of our relationship of being in each other's lives and out of each other's lives. But the core of our relationship and as adults literally started 3 years ago. And so the first 2 years, there was like toxicity, there was tumultuous issues, and a lot of it was surrounded by alcohol and not understanding what the goal is future wise. We say we want to be together, but what does that really look like, right? And then like situations happened, and it was like, okay, all right, if we don't do this, we're gonna separate, right? And so sitting with the therapist and talking, and mind you, we're doing it virtually, right? We're doing it virtually, but he and I are together while we're having the conversation with the therapist, and he's giving us like real tools, real conversation. And honestly, to tell you the truth, as a Black woman and having a black man that I'm getting married to, having an older Black man talk to us, I think, and not to say that our white counterpart can't do the same thing, or even a Black woman can do the same thing, but I do feel that like this particular therapist, because he's an older Black man, I think that my fiance really gravitated towards the things that he was saying. It was like an uncle saying it to you, right? And he has real conversations with us. I've cried. I've let things out. We both started more like healing processes, because there's trauma on both sides, and not to say like a physical trauma, but emotional trauma for both of us in our histories. So it's tackling those things that we don't talk about, where in the physical sense it turns into toxicity, and we need to be able to have effective communication.
That's it. Effective communication.
And that's the one thing that he says over and over and over again to us. And so when I've noticed over the past, I want to say maybe August, September, October, so now 3 months consistently, there has been way better effective communication. And that's not even like, the tools when people are about to get married, they say, don't go to sleep mad.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to go through the next hour being mad. Like,
right.
Get past it. You know what I'm saying?
Let it go, right? As fast as you can, right?
As fast as you can. Yeah. So we may get into of course, we're human beings. Right. We may get on each other's nerves. Right. We may have little tiffs, but those little tiffs aren't turning into bigger tiffs,
Mm-hmm,
bigger
mm-hmm,
explosions. And
mm-hmm.
before it was bigger explosions. Now they're like little mini fires that we can put out and move on with our
Because
day.
it's like the build up, the build up. If you don't express it when it's happening, right, then you're building on top until it's exploding. So I like the idea you're saying, just handle it right now, the little things, and get past that.
Correct.
And also, sometimes people think they could do it themselves, right? When really having a coach or having a therapist or
Yeah.
having somebody just walk you through it and support you in hearing each other. Because we hear each other the same way we hear each other. Because I remember my husband used to say at one point, I would just sound like blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Blah.
Yeah. They think they were nags and we're
Right,
getting.
right. People hear you. So really practicing how to communicate effectively is the key to all relationships. I would say the one thing that works and that makes it feel really good is being able to speak and talk and communicate. And to me, that comes down to also being very authentic in your relationship.
Yeah.
Because if you can talk about what you're feeling, and that's been like the hardest thing, I think, in relationships, right? Is to really be able to say, this is what I'm feeling. But the key to that is having the language to
There you
express
go.
it,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what a therapist can help you with, is having that language and a way to talk to each other, because we can't always express what we're feeling in a way that the other person gets it, and it's just real complicated. But
No, you're right. You're right. You're exactly right.
tools and support and ways that we can learn to communicate with each other, and we all get to work on it, and it's a consistent practice. It's always, because we're always growing, so, and consistently changing, so there's that consistency that also has to work. So I'm excited. I got really excited when you were like therapy, right? Because I think that mental health is support. Mental health support is so important. It's so important. So I just would encourage everybody, find somebody,
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
Yeah, that can really support you. So we everybody comes on the show and they think like an hour is a long time, but it really isn't a long time, because we're almost at that like hour,
Yeah.
right? Where so I would like to just give you a chance to let people know how they can get in contact with you, any parting information you want to share, anything. It's all yours, right?
Thank you. Well, first, I wanted to say thank you so much for having me on tonight.
You're
Um, and yes, you can find me on social media, like we talked about earlier.
welcome.
It's at Akila Moore. I keep it very brand appropriate. Um,
Mm,
AKELAMOORE. And then you can always email me. It's Akila T, and the T is for Tamara Moore at gmail.com. I always answer inquiries that way. People always find me on Instagram and reach out to me for PR work and things like that. And then if you're also interested in learning more about One Hope Wine, it's definitely best to DM me on Instagram or hit me up on email, which is AKELAT as in Tom, MOORE at gmail.com. And again, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on the platform. This was a great conversation. I love talking about all the things that I do.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's like, I like it too. That's why I was like, oh, we talk about everything on my
We
show,
talk
and
about
I'm like,
everything.
yeah, you can talk about whatever, right? Whatever we want, and it's just that people learn, people are inspired. Us sharing our stories help other people make decisions and move, and I like sharing about the spiritual practices and how they support us, right?
And
And
honestly, I agree with you. I'm sorry to cut you off,
no
but
problem.
I think somebody had said, I wish, people in just corporate America had more like spiritual conversations, not religion conversations, because they're separate things,
Right,
right?
Right,
And
exactly.
if we set out time to have those spiritual conversations or mental health conversations, people would want to come to work more,
They
right?
will, right, exactly.
It would
They
be more
really would.
productive.
Yes, exactly. I have a friend who's doing something about authenticity in the workplace, right?
Mm,
And that would be the idea of how to get people to be authentic in the workplace, right? Will be
right,
around having more conversations around spirituality and having conversations around just being human in the workplace. And as we see now, people don't want to go back to the workplace, right?
yeah,
Because they have been home and they have been doing their job very well from home.
from home.
And I support. I want to go a little bit, but I don't necessarily want to go back.
Every day. Yeah,
Right? Because I love the idea of interacting with people and being back out, right? But I also know that it does not take us being in that environment to
right.
absolutely get the work done
Home.
and do
Yeah.
the work, right? So, with all of that, and that was a lot, right? I am so happy that you were able to join me tonight, and congratulations on the wedding and
Thank
getting married and planning all of that. And I will see you soon. Thank you for
Yes,
joining me. Yes,
of
have a
course.
good
Thank
one.
you.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night. Hello, and thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Reverend G. And I'm here every Monday night, WEMS Radio, from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can find us live on Facebook on Monday nights, on the WEMS Radio app, and on YouTube. Check us out. You can also find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. So I hope you enjoyed the show tonight, and I hope you are living your best life in joy with grace and ease. And I got really excited tonight about the whole mental health story and the whole thing about really getting support. So I hope you are checking in on how you're doing and taking care of your mental health as well as your mind, body, and spirit. I'm Reverend G, and I'll see you next week right here on WEMS Radio. Have a great week.